Thank you for meeting with me today. For everybody who's watching, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Dr. Dan Clarke, and I am one of the founders, along with yourself, of Mamabird Interviews and Mamabird Mentors, and I'm really excited to be here with you. I am on fire for this work, and this work to me is putting young women like you from the community of Montbello, and then hopefully extending out in the future in power positions so that you can change the world. I have seen so much power and strength in the young women in our community. I have taught in the community of Montbello, which is a suburb of Denver and a part of Denver, for the past 9 years. And Montbello is a almost 100% community of color, a very marginalized community in so many different ways. And I have seen the disconnect between my many privileges and how they present themselves in my life and the lack of privileges that our students have in Montbello, including so many of our successful students in high school do not find success after high school. And so after teaching and not feeling I've had enough impact in the classroom, which I still am teaching in the community and still passionate about that work, I realized at the start of this pandemic that it's even more extreme than I thought previously. I'm still getting salaried for being a public school educator. I'm a high school business teacher. And when I received my severance check, not severance check, excuse me, my stimulus check, I was not fired. When I received my stimulus check, I did not necessarily need it. And so I realized that I didn't need it, but so many of my students and their families who are frontline workers and really still doing the work and not from the safety of their big home like I'm in right now, they needed it much more than me. And so I thought of ways to put money back in our students' pockets. And so I hired one of our students to teach our children Spanish, and I was trying to find other ways. And so that's where Mamabird really sprang from. Was I knew the talent level of our community and the capabilities of our community, and I wanted to find ways to economically empower our community, and that's what we finally came up with. So me, you, and two other young women from our community met on all summer long of 2020. We were getting up at 7 in the morning in summer when you were off, which I appreciate your time for that. And we were meeting every day, kind of trying to figure this out and what this would look like and how we could run a business and how we could get money in your pockets and how we can connect with other community and create kind of a mentor network. And so we created something really wonderful. And so our business end, the kind of money making end for you all, is Mamabird Interviews, where we conduct these interviews called wisdom interviews, where it's Zoom recorded interviews where you record someone's loved ones that's typically older and record their stories, record their wisdom, record their experiences, so that in the future, when they're no longer with us, we have that keepsake for their family, which is completely invaluable. And that's an idea my dad had years ago that we've taken from him and kind of ran with it. And then the other end, which has been really powerful, is this program called Mamabird Mentors, and that's where this idea is really coming from, where you talk to mentors in different capacities, and so they can help you grow and improve in life. And also, you're practicing networking, but you're really just learning. And we found that young women, especially like yourself, who are often introverts, really are able to thrive in this Zoom environment. And so it just really empowered people, and it was just a wonderful thing. And so I just did the math. We have touched 31 different individuals from our community and paid them to do various types of work this year. I have personally invested over $12,000 of my own money into these programs, most of it directly into the pockets of young people from Montbello. And on top of that, and due to that work, we have also received $10,000 in grant money through the Denver Foundation for Strengthening Neighborhood Grants. And then also, because of the paid interviews, that's put additional about $3,000 in your pockets. And so it's just been a great year for a lot of reasons for us during something that's really tragic, like a pandemic. And so this is really a bright spot to come out of something that's so terrible. But what I really want is for all of our young people in these marginalized communities to be empowered. And the best way that I think I can help that happen is through empowering women like you and you doing the work. And so my dream is that all of our students are able to choose their paths. And so with economic support, that happens with support from mental health, which we've gotten mental health support through this program for free through the Center of Trauma and Resilience, which is amazing. And so that happens in that way. And then just support. Right now, we graduate students in high school and we just let them go. You're off into this cold world. We often brag about our graduation rates from high school and our college entrance rates, but we never seem to follow up and see who is successful after that point. And I've seen a real disconnect with that. And I think that you all have the answers. I don't think I have the answers. I think that The answer is to get you all in power positions. If we can pay you good money to work part-time so that you can pursue your various dreams, I think that that's the way that the world changes and becomes better. So I am on fire for this work. On a personal note, I have a wonderful wife and two healthy children, 6 and 4, and I have finally, I feel, found my calling in life, to pursue something with this much passion so that we can make the world better for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time to introduce our team and introduce the work you have done. You've definitely contributed a lot to where I am today and why I want to do this project.
Awesome. And you are awesome, Yusura. So I want you to tell me so I can help kind of guide you in this journey. And this journey is going to be you talking to a series of different people who can help move you forward in life. And you've already done a lot of that and already seen success and from a lot of that. But I think that your personal potential is absolutely unlimited. I don't know if you know this yet, but I've talked about this way about you behind your back in this way. My nickname for you is the Senator, because I think that you have that type of potential. I think that you can literally do anything you want in life, and I never want to dictate or try to push people in any specific direction. But I know you have a very big heart and are very focused on humanitarian issues. And so I think you can do anything. And so I really am excited for you to continue your path and see how many lives you can impact that way. And so that's what I want to ask you first to kind of start us out is, where are you in life right now? Where do you feel you are in life?
I think in life right now I'm slowing down, but for the good. I was, I think, ever since high school, just trying to go fast. Like I had a destination and I wanted to get there as soon as possible. But this semester I noticed that it's okay to just slow down and be present, and it makes me happier to be present instead of constantly worrying about what I'm going to do next and what's the next projects I'm going to do, what different organization am I going to join, how many classes am I going to take. When I'm like, I was always constantly calculating and figuring out what to do next. But right now, I'm not really thinking about what to do next. I'm thinking about what I have to do now, because in order to start thinking about what to do next, I need to be in a good place mentally, and physically and emotionally. So right now, I'm focusing on that. I'm focusing on rebuilding my social skills, talking to people better instead of isolating myself, because I tend to do that. I tend to isolate myself when things are not going my way. I'm also focusing on my classes, and I'm not being too hard on myself about grades, and not trying to be too strict, like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I can't be late, I can't, I'm giving myself some flexibility and some time. I'm also spending more time with my family and communicating with my parents. I tend to not tell them anything that's going on in my life, and they get confused. And when people ask them, like, oh, your daughter's doing so many great things, and they have no clue what I'm doing. So I'm trying to make sure they know what's happening in my life, because I know they want to know and they want to help, and they can't help if they don't know what I need help with. I'm also learning to drive, and I'm pretty sure by next month I should be able to get my license. I'm confident in my driving now. I'm not anxious about it. I used to be so anxious to drive. I was like, everything could go wrong. I could get in a car crash and all this stuff. But my anxiety is, out of balance right now. So I'm not worried about anything too much. So that's where I am at life, is just slowing down and learning to just live in the simplicity of things. Yeah.
So that's something I can learn from you too, because I always am trying to push you all forward, because I do have this vision for all our team and what you're capable of, and again with really the goal of making the world a better place. How can people who are supporters of you, how can people who believe in you like I do, how can I personally, how can we balance, how do you see that balancing from that perspective of people who do want to push you forward and give you these opportunities because you are exposed to, because of the work you've done, exposed to a lot of wonderful opportunities. How do people like me help you with this journey of staying present at the same time helping you get where you want to go?
That's something I'm also trying to figure out, because there have been other opportunities presented to me by the school, and I do take them, but I make sure that it fits my schedule. I know I can I know I can manage having a lot of work. I'm just trying to make sure I don't let it consume me. So I do appreciate people who give me opportunities, because it does excite me. Like, it gives me like something more to just like keep on going, because sometimes, yeah, I'm present, but I also want to do stuff. Um, so I think for people who want to support me and push me and give me these opportunities, I think it's about patience, um, and not taking it too hard if I like take time to respond or take time to get to things, because I'm still trying to like fit everything in and making sure that I'm not rushing everything, because I tend to like, okay, oh, this sounds so great, let me just go right into it. Um, but I feel like once I slow down, I'm like, oh, this is a great opportunity, and then I'm able to process it more better. And I'm like, with this, I know you brought this up during my winter break, but now I'm finally getting into it, and that's because it finally like sat with me, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to talk to people. I'm ready to do this and that, instead of just jumping in and seeing it as another task I have to like tick off. This is like something I actually want to do and something I am passionate about doing. And I noticed that by myself. It's like I want to do something, but sometimes I just need to like process everything and see how I want to go and how I want to format everything. Um, but yeah, I think it's possible to have a balance between moving forward and also being present. Because if you're present, you're also moving yourself forward. Because at some point, the future will be the present. So that's something I'm also thinking about. I'm always constantly thinking about the future, but I'm also trying to be here, because I'll always be in the present, and the future will always be something in the distance.
This is so cool for many reasons. And one of the reasons that I didn't think about it being this cool for, which I'm just realizing now, is you teach me so much. And so that part of it too is being conscious of what's happening in the world. And first, my first thought was the patience is something that I struggle with too. Especially with Mamabird, I want us to be impacting many, many, many people right away, because there's so many people that
Mhm.
need to have options in life, and that we could really impact in a positive way. However, it's unfolding the way I feel it should in the end, and there's good reasons for that too. And so we're getting stronger, we're creating better systems, we're bringing in people and helping train them and having more personal attention on them. And so all those things can be good. So I think that's something I'm learning too, that the path is the way, and that's something that we can still push forward at the same time as being present. But then one thing that I've encouraged you to do in the past, which you have done really well with your mentor interviews, is interjecting your own thoughts and your own life into these interviews makes me learn about myself, right? I'm seeing you and at the point where you are at in life, and you're 19 and you're in college, and 19 or 18?
18 still.
18 still.
4 more
So you're
months and I'll be 19.
So you're 18 years old, you're still in college, and I think of you as my peer. I'm 40, almost 41. I think of you as my peer, and you're also so mature, and I've also dealt with so much in life that you're very grown up in a lot of ways. And so I forget about that part of things too, is that you are so young. But because of that youth, there's a wisdom that comes with that in a lot of ways, and through you just in general, because not only are you young, you're also, I feel, what they would call an old soul. So you have that in you too. And so you're wise beyond your years. When I hear you say things like that, and how the present is obviously impacting the future, and you're doing that work, I'm conscious of it. It just makes me think about the rest of my day today is going to be able to be spent with my family, who I love, and to be in those moments, because this work is important. But we've already set up systems where this work is even happening without me and other people in their capacity. Two of the women in our group are very religious, and from Christianity and Catholicism, I believe. And so they are specifically have shared with us Sundays are off limits. We're not doing any work on Sundays. And that's something that I'm so proud of too, that we've this is part-time work, and we're kind of doing it all over the place when it comes to us. And so them empowering themselves and voicing those things. And that's something that taught me a lot too. And I need to be, as a organization, we need to be very conscious of people's boundaries. And so that's something too. And that's also led me to realize too, with your journey you're going on with these mentor interviews, this can be a great place where you can learn these things too, right? When you're talking to all these amazing people, and most of them hopefully will be women of color, and they will have some connection to you in whatever capacity. You can talk to them about that. How do you balance being in the moment with looking towards the future? How you're successful because you push yourself so hard, but that often leads to many issues. How do you do it as a balance? Is it possible? And how can I be doing this now? What kind of things can I be practicing now to do it? How do I say no to stuff? And why do I say no to stuff? And I think that you are you represented that too, that you want to be doing what brings you energy and not stuff that takes away energy. And something that I have a hard time is I think almost of everything like if you do something, you're committed to it forever. And that's not true. And so you can do things, and communication is a big part of this. If you communicate properly, it doesn't mean you need to do them forever. And also those things, let's say you do student government for a certain time and then you don't do it anymore, you're the people that you interacted with and the work you've done is still there. So you've still benefited that in that ways. And as long as you are a good person, which there's not going to be a problem there with you, you're doing good work and you're also taking care of yourself. That's really important. I've often heard the flight analogy that you put the mask over yourself first, even before your kids, they say, right? Because if you're unconscious, everyone's going down. If you're conscious, then you can still help your kids, even if they're unconscious. And so that kind of prioritizing yourself is something we hear from successful people over and over again. And something that I think it's easy for me with all my privilege to give my all in different ways because I'm not attacked by society in so many other ways. And so that's something I've learned on this journey. But you definitely don't have that privilege. And so you're attacked by society in any ways. Whether they're even, well, they're all real, but a lot of the ways may just be perceived and the way it impacts you in different ways because of this and the way your mind intakes different things and the way you internalize different things. And so I think that could be a part of this journey for you too. So let's turn it there. What kind of things would you like to learn from people throughout this journey? What kind of connections should we try to get you to so that you can learn about yourself? And also, again, you on this journey could be other young women on this journey, just young people in general, kind of finding themselves out of college. I think it's obvious that you can't be separated from being a Black Muslim woman in America, an African immigrant. And so that could be part of this journey. But what type of people, and it doesn't need to be specific people at all, but what type of people or what kind of topics do you think would be neat for you to start covering with people?
Some topics I think would be neat to cover with some people include, of course, culture and ethnicity. That's something I've dealt with my whole life, and it's a big part of my identity. And for a long time, I tried to kind of erase it and try to like separate myself from it. And only recently, I think starting senior year, I started to accept it. But then at the same time, I feel like I'm so far from it because I spent so many years not accepting it and pushing it off that now when I meet people in the same culture as me, I'm just like, I can't relate to most of the things you have to say or do or activities because I, as a kid, isolated myself from them. When I went to family events or these big celebrations, I would be in the corner waiting to go home. But now I'm trying to re-accept it, to learn the music, to learn the foods and try to do it all over again. But also it's difficult because, you know, your family's like, you were this one person and now it's like you're trying to be this other person and they're so confused. But it's like, I want to learn this culture and I want to meet people who know about that struggle between trying to accept your culture and trying to fit into what society thinks of you. Also, when I meet people, they're like, oh yeah, they expect me to sound a certain way or to dress a certain way or to be a certain way. Because they're like, oh, you're African American, you're Muslim, you're from Kenya. Why don't you have an accent? Why don't you dress like this? How come you don't know this type of music? How come you don't know this? And then I feel like I just disappointed them because they're like, oh, you're basically, as some people say, whitewashed, which I don't like that term. Just because someone is a certain way or as participates in certain things doesn't mean, you know, they're whitewashed or they lack, you know, culture or they lack experience or they lack the same, you know, backgrounds. Even though I might not understand the culture and I'm still trying to learn it, it doesn't mean I haven't experienced the same things. People don't look at me, they're not like, oh, you're white or you act like white, so we're going to treat you like you're white. I don't have those privileges. Something else, a topic I want to learn is, of course, mental health. Mental health has been a big thing for me since middle school. Recently has been getting better because I finally accepted that there's something wrong with me mentally. Before I'm just like, oh, you know, it's just a little bit of anxiety. I'm just going to like journal and then it'll be over and I could get back to work. And now I've learned that's something I'm probably going to have to work on for a long time. And that it comes from many different things. It's not just like one thing that I have to like fix and then I'm not anxious anymore. Miss Reed actually contacted me yesterday about that. She was like, I see your posts and you seem like you have generalized anxiety. If you need help, I'm here for you. So that was really nice to see that. And also sometimes don't recognize that my posts reflect my emotions, and I looked back and I was like, I don't see how this reflects I'm anxious, but I'm glad she was able to see that there's something wrong there. And that made me really reflect about how I'm externally expressing myself without noticing that reflects what I'm feeling. Um, Another topic is relationships. Um, Not just like romantic relationships, but like friends, family type of relationships and setting boundaries. I'm not good with setting boundaries. I feel like if I commit myself to someone, I give my all to them. If I make a promise, I will fulfill that promise. If you need something, I will, and if it hurts me, I will set aside my pain to make sure that you are okay, which has not been good to me in the past. I've been left hurt a lot of times because I don't know how to say no, and a part of me feels like if I say no, that person won't value anymore. And I learned that from the meeting we had with Mamabird, Mamabird grad school with Asha. That's not true. That saying no doesn't mean you're less of a value, that someone values you less. So those are things I'm trying to push into my brain. And some things like you learn and you know it's true, but it's hard to like keep it with you. It's hard to like actually take it and implement, because I know a lot of things. I know about setting boundaries, but it's like, how do I actually do it? How do I actually implement it? Like, I know I should set boundaries. I know if I say no, I don't need an explanation, but how do I just say it and move on? Does it take practice? How long does it take? All that kind of stuff I want to learn. Um, yeah, those are some of the ideas I have so far though.
Okay, that's wonderful. And as I'm watching this, this could be something that we send to people to ask them to help with these things too, right? It could be something where we edit this, which you have that capability, and then send it to someone and say, "This is what I'm hoping to talk to you about. Is that something you have the capacity for? If not, then can you refer to me to someone who does possibly?" And so that's a wonderful part of what you just did. The other thing is, there's nothing wrong with you, like that. You talked about your way and this way. Everyone deals with these issues in different capacities. As I say that, though, that's another, my new privilege for the day is realizing that I don't in that same way. I don't, as a straight white man, I don't internalize anything. I too want to help other people, and not that I don't have a hard time. I'm able to say no in certain capacities, but I don't typically want to, and I'm also able to give myself more because of being in a good place for myself. And so that's a way to look at it too, is you need to be the best version of yourself for the world. And so saying no at this point can help you do that. And you can explain that to people. And you're in a lucky, we all have different privileges. When you all had your privilege talk, you all started out, you, Ariana and Janine, started out with your own privileges, which just blew me away. Because even and with all the lack of privileges that you have, you still are very conscious of that you do live in America, that you do have education, you're able to go to college, that our Mamabird experience has impacted you in a really positive way, and put money in your pocket. And so all of these privileges that you do have, I think that even those then become a burden to you in a way that they don't to me. And so what I'm saying though is, you do need to work on yourself in order to give yourself to the world. And I think viewing it from that perspective is really important. Like, you have so much to give. When you figure out a way to do that in a way that values yourself and your health and your body, that you can do more of it. And so that's something that I think when you talk to people, they'll be able to help you with specific like tools and skills for that. Could be one specific one is, a lot of your conversations will be more general and more broad. Miss Reed's on the list, right? You should have a conversation with her, whatever capacity that would look like, with the both of you, because she's amazing. And a former coworker of mine, and a Black woman and a Latina woman. She's would be a mentor in so many ways and has been to you. And so being able to be healthy yourself and set boundaries so then you could help other people can be a perspective that you have. And as you continue throughout your life and career, you will have more clout. And I think that helps things too in lots of ways, where you have people that really want to work with you, which means you have to say no more. But then that's easier because you realize, I can't do all this. There's no way. So then it makes it easier to say, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then what you also get good at is being able to help people in other ways. So can we build up these sustainable resources, which you'll be making one of them, right? One resource that you have is, you aren't going to be able to talk to and mentor all the young people that you hopefully would want to learn from you, and specifically in our community, but then outside of it, and young Muslim women who are dealing with the same stuff as you. But by recording these things, then you can. And so now you're able to help people in other ways, right? And then you are able to, with the time you have, you find the best way to leverage that time for things that build you up, and at the same time can impact other people. And then you can also work with other people like Aisha, who you're working with currently, who's an intern, who's kind of your personal assistant on this journey. And so she's so capable too. So by you not helping everyone directly, but having her now help other people can help her as well and help other people. And so there's actually, you're doing more with less in a lot of ways. And so I think that's really cool. From the culture standpoint, I can't even imagine what you're dealing with. And that's difficult on so many levels. And I've often thought that about, especially our immigrant students, that they're part of two worlds and not necessarily part of one or the other, and not accepted by one or the other, and how difficult that must be. Carla, who's part of our program, talks about that too. She's on, both edges, and I think about that with many different students. Our students that are actually from Africa, that are African American, and they may not be accepted in the Black community, or there's differences between them. Then our Latina students who are Spanish speaking, but they may speak English with an accent, and the prejudice that comes with that. The Latina students that just speak English and don't speak Spanish because they were actually born in America and that's the only culture they know, and the prejudice that comes with that. And so sharing those things, one of the things that I think can be another benefit from this, and how I can come into this too, is sharing your stories and stories of our other students with allies. Because I think as white people specifically and white allies become more aware of this, and white male allies for women become aware of these things, and they can help make sure that they are, not being part of the problem and creating real change with it. And so I think that all that is really good. And I also think that this can be an ongoing experience. There's no time frame on this, and that needs to be something that you figure out with it. And I think that the more that your assistant does as far as scheduling, that where your time is needed is these conversations. So I think that you and Aisha can really work together and get in this groove where you say, this is the type of person I'm looking to talk to. And she can make suggestions for you too, because she's got a very similar background. That's how you really connected, is she's in the same boat as you in a lot of capacities, being, from a Muslim family from Africa, and now living in Denver, and all the different things. And she's in high school, so she's still only 16 or 17. But she could be reaching out and scheduling. Most of the people, a lot of people you're going to be dealing with will have assistants too. And so they can be dealing and scheduling, and so that your time is now used effectively, and then it's just filling your cup, right? If you're doing 2 hours of work on this a week, but most of that is kind of back and forth with emailing, that's draining. But if you're doing 2 hours a week of this, and most of that is talking to people, then that's filling. And so we need to get good at systems like that. And I think a place to start is with your teachers. You've had so many amazing teachers in the past, and them knowing what you're doing too will now open up their network and make them think of different connections in that capacity. So I think a lot of your teachers could be really good to talk to, just for you to reconnect to, which is really neat, but also to learn from them again at a different experience. You tell me that, as your experience with interacting with people change. You're so much older now, and I mean, your first year of college is, you've grown up a lot in this, right? And so do you think you're able to accept information or think of information differently now, just in this quick year from high school, now that you're in college?
Yeah, I think now, before, when I got feedback, I know getting feedback was important, but I was at a place in high school where I got so praised so many times that when I got criticism, it hurt. Like, I took it so personally. Like, I thought, that was like, I was a horrible person, that I did something wrong. If, like, I had to do every single thing perfect. And if someone said I did something wrong, that was like the end of the world. But now I actually appreciate feedback, and I'm very thankful for feedback, because it just allows me where I need to grow. And sometimes I was watching a couple videos and was talking about, there's things about yourself that you don't know that only other people can see. There's things about yourself that only you know. And sometimes it's hard to see how the people see you. And there's some things that you think you're perfectly fine with, but not everyone's out to attack you. I grew up with this perception that everyone's like against you, that everyone, and that, I guess that comes from my background, is, coming to America, and it's like everyone hates you, but that's not true. There's a lot of people who want to help. I'm not scared to reach out for help now that I'm in college. If I need something from a professor, I'll email them. If I have a question, I'll ask it, instead of just waiting around and hoping that they address the problem or they address the question. Also talking to my old teachers. If I'm sad and one of my friends aren't replying to my texts, sometimes I'll text Miss Waters and ask her, and she will get back to me. But yeah, I'm not as afraid to ask for help or reach out to people or ask questions or to receive criticism, or someone to tell me, oh, this is great, but you need to improve on this and this. And then I'm like, thank you. I did not notice that, but it made my, work so much better. So I'm glad that's how I've changed so far in college, is my interactions with people.
How did that, so other people that are behind you in this journey, how did you come to that place? What kind of things helped you to realize that you should be advocating for yourself and give you the strength to be able to do it? What kind of things made you realize, this is something I'm still struggling at my age, that constructive criticism isn't a personal attack against you, it's to try to help you get better, and being better is a good thing, and especially if it's in a supported way? What kind of things led to that in your first year in college, or just your year in this life?
I think Mamabird definitely has helped with that. I know that you give us feedback all the time. And first I was like overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, he thinks there's so many things wrong with me. But I saw constantly that you were still here, that you were still checking on us, that you were still pushing us forward, and that you were not doing this to attack us in any way. So I've taken that with me. And also the interviews I've done, watching other people and talk about their life experiences and how they take criticisms. And also when I was applying to all these programs last fall semester, one of the questions on most of the applications were talking about, how do you handle criticism? Can you give it and can you take it? Um, and that's something I started reflecting on, is how it just reiterates what you were talking about um, when you, I remember in the beginning of of our organization, you talked about how when you give us criticism, it's not because it's a person attacking us, you just want us to improve. So when I saw those questions on the applications for like student government or this leadership program I was part of, I realized that criticism is something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life. And most of it will not be a personal attack against me. It's just people wanting me to improve, making sure I'm doing a better job, and making sure that everyone else around me is also doing a better job. And also, I was thinking about me giving criticism to people, and how when I give criticism to people, it's not because I hate them or I dislike them or I think they're a horrible person. It's because I think they have potential and I want them to even improve even more. My friends, even now that we're in college, they send me their essays to peer review them. And when I peer review essays, I like go in with like everything, like, okay, you have to change this and that, or this is great, but you can rephrase it, or this makes no sense. But they never take it in a way like, oh, she hates my work. And that was appreciated. So I started reflecting on that, like, why am I so hurt by people giving me criticism when all they want to do is just get me even higher? Like, this person gives me criticism because they care about my work. I also listened to a podcast about that. It was this Black woman, and she worked, most of her coworkers were white men, and the white men gave each other really hard, harsh criticism. But with her, they were more scared to. But she was so offended by that. She was like, I need the criticism. By you guys withholding your criticism from me, you're slowing me down and you're not pushing me up like you guys are doing with yourselves. Just because I'm a woman, just because I'm of a different background, doesn't mean to be softer on me. Go hard, because you not criticizing me, you not taking the time to peer review all my work, you're holding me back. So it was interesting to view it that way.
Yeah, I always think that if I know you care about me, then I want you to be direct, because I know you're in the right place, and I know we're working towards a common goal. If I don't know you care about me, or I don't feel like you care about me, then it can be very hurtful for me, and then I'm not open to learn. And so it's very interesting to me to hear, because this is the first time I've heard that you were even concerned with my, when I taught you since you were in like sixth or seventh grade. So we've known each other now for 8 or 9 years, which is wild to me. And not that we've definitely got to know each other way better over this last year, and I've got to know more about your story this last year. But with all of my students, I truly care about our students. And so it's interesting to hear about that. But I've got better connections with certain students, and you're certainly one of them. And it's interesting to hear about that, that even with me, you internalize things, and felt attacked in ways, or just felt that. And that's something that I can be conscious of, either even communicating in other ways. But I think it's also, it's not just words, right? You follow people's actions. And so I think that is one of the major problems with our country and our world, really, is especially in marginalized communities like Montbello, where I am lucky enough to teach. the teacher turnover is just insane in our areas. And even our school was a school that opened up after a school was going to be closed, and it looks like it may be closed again in the future. And so this constantly happens. There's constant teacher turnover for all of you. And so it creates a lot of trust issues to begin with. The teachers never reflect who you are and who the community is. And so there's trust issues with that. The teachers live far away often and work there as a job. And so they aren't connected to the community in that capacity. And so there's all these systemic issues that lead to this. And you're certainly not alone in this, but that's tough because you're now going out and competing in a world where there's a lot of privileged people who don't have to deal with this crap. And they're able to get, like you talked about in that podcast, very harsh criticism that makes them better. I think the way kind of sports is run is it's very direct, very competitive, but also then people are being pushed and they improve based on that. They don't care enough about breaking people and how it can deal with the negative effects of it. But that's very interesting, and that could be an avenue for you to reach out to women like that. So specifically, right? I do that. I listen to podcasts, and then I hear amazing people, and I try to contact them, and it's worked. We connected with Aaron Quinton, I think is his last name, who does the Brand on Purpose podcast, and he's amazing. And we were able to talk to him based on listening to his podcast, and then reaching out and connecting him based on that. And that's something where I see this journey for you could become a podcast where people are learning from you in this capacity too in the future. And so that's one with feedback that I think is very interesting and I think very helpful. What have you learned as far as just, and it's also wonderful to hear all the stuff that has made you grow with Mamabird. And I think that's something as we grow that we can empower people in so many ways through our community and through learning with our community. What kind of lessons have you learned in school your first year, because you kind of were full-time in college and high school for your final year, for your senior year, but it's still a little different experience now. What kind of lessons have you learned in school this year, do you think?
I've learned that people appreciate being with people. Um, I've always thought, you go to school, you do what you're told, and then you're done. But I've noticed that people want to work with people who have personality, people who they can laugh with, and people who they could joke with. It makes time so much, go faster. It makes things so much easier when you can sit down and be comfortable with people. I always came in with like, oh, when you're at school, you have to like sit down, be quiet, do what you're told, get your work done, and then that's that. But I've noticed that, especially when working with student government, um, everybody has different things and everybody talks differently, but they take time to also like in between, like while we're having meetings, they might like laugh about something or joke around. And even if they have disagreements about certain things, certain legislation or policies that we're writing, they still have time to like sit down and laugh with each other and, talk. And I noticed I would just sit there waiting for, like for them to finish socializing to get back to work. And that's, it's not fun. It's hard to connect with people on that basis of just do what you're supposed to do and then you're done. So that's something I've learned is it's okay for people to know who I am. I don't have to sit down and be quiet and listen and then do what I'm supposed to do. And then that's the end of it. It's okay if I talk a bit more. It's okay if I laugh. It's okay if I say a joke or contribute or talk about what I like and what I don't like. So that's the first thing I learned being in college. Another thing I've learned is no one's perfect. All my college time in high school and middle school, I was told, oh, if you're going to be smart, blah, blah, you can't do this and this. You have to be like a really good person. Like only smart people are good people, which is not true. I've learned there's no right way to live. All the people I work with are very smart and very educated, but they all live differently. I've always, thought like, oh, if you smoke, you're bad. If you do this, you're bad. If you do that, you're bad. You have to be smart. You have to be a good person. You have to be nice. And I've learned from school that that's not true. Being smart does not mean you're a good person. And how you define being a good person is different for everyone. That's also something I've learned. What I might consider a good person, someone else might consider a bad person. Someone's actions, I think, are good actions. Someone else might think it as bad actions. That's also something I've learned. Yeah, those are a couple things I've learned so far in school.
And we're so complex, right? We're such complex individuals. And one thing that I just thought about when you were saying all that, which I have had this thought before, is a bias I have And it's hard to talk about your own biases, but I'm thinking about if I was having the same conversation with you and you were a white woman and you were a privileged white woman, I would be pushing on you so hard to have fun in college, like have fun. And I don't think you've ever had fun in your life, meaning that you have been working your whole damn life to do the best you can so that you can prove yourself to your parents, so that you can prove yourself as a Muslim woman, so that you can put yourself in a position where you can impact and help your parents who you love and who've done so much for you and your family. And you see that as a role, as an older sibling, and raising your younger siblings as a role model to them too. So you've put aside your own fun and own joy your whole life, literally your whole life. And I'm sure there's moments and pockets of it, but it's never been a priority. And if you were one of my cousins and you were going to school, I would say, like, enjoy yourself, party, like all of these things that I wouldn't say to you. And there's bias in it, but there's also the way I look at you is different in the fact that you also, because of this lack of privilege, have a chance to impact the world in a bigger way because of that. And so there's starting to be, and there's not starting to be, there's been a shift, and there should be a shift as far as, again, getting women of color in power positions and having them conduct this legislation that impacts their communities, and all these other things. And so I see that as a big responsibility. At the same time, we just finally have a woman vice president, which is amazing, but still no president that's ever been a woman, right? And so we, my kind of bias of how I'm talking to you is I see it in a really negative way, because I do want you now to have fun and relax and enjoy yourself. At the same time, I do see that can come in your life, and that's also not exactly who you are because of this. So you just going wild and partying all the time would never be you, and that wouldn't be good for you. But you are absolutely right. You can experience joy in your life, and you can be down for a second, relax for a second. But you can also, one of the cool things, and this is happening with Mamabird for sure, is you can be doing something you're passionate about that's moving the world forward while having fun and while enjoying yourself and while experiencing joy. And that could be something that you could talk to people too, is like, how do I let go? I'm a very like reserved person. How do I let go, and how do I step into, and we just had a session with Asha, who's great at that, like, tap into your inner child, and are you experiencing your inner child, and what are you doing to nurture that joy? And having kids is that way too. You start to relive through them, and see so much joy through them, and through your younger siblings is a way to do it too. But you're exactly right. People are very complex, and one opportunity that I think you have that this experience could help is you're just zooming through, well, literally zooming and figuratively zooming through college right now, right? So you're now in your second year of college, technically. So you're a freshman in college. You're 18 years old, but you're kind of junior credits, and so you're going to graduate in the next year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is. So you will graduate college at age 20, basically, and so that's crazy young. And that's awesome in a lot of ways, but also sad in a lot of ways. If you talk to me about my undergraduate degree and what I learned from that experience, I went to San Diego State University, go Aztecs, and it was almost 100% social, what I remember from that. I made great friends in my freshman year when I lived in the dorms. Living in the dorms was a transformative experience for me. I did party. I partied almost too much. I had a 1.9 GPA my freshman year and almost got kicked out of school. Never shared that with you or the world. Almost got kicked out of school, and I've talked to so many people who did that too. It's such a different experience. You're living by yourself for the first time, all these different things. You're not experience with how college works. And then after that, I really had a change in mindset, and I think I was on the honor roll and dean's list and things like that from there. But still, college, my undergrad especially, was social for me. And then when I went to grad school, I started learning way more from my peers and networking and learning from that capacity too. And that was really impactful. And then when you're older and you go back to school, I was almost like you. Now I'm ready to learn, really soak everything in and take from that. But I noticed with you, I noticed with Ariana that you're so focused on education that she's in the same boat. As she's not taking time for joy. She's not taking time to experience what a traditional white experience, college would experience would be. And there's opportunities for that, especially for a woman like you, I think, at places like HBCUs or places like NYU, really diverse colleges where you'd be honored. And I think I know you talked about it previously, going away for grad school, I think could be a huge opportunity for you. And you find a grad school where you are the norm, or you are not out of place, and you don't have to worry about your identity because everyone is your identity or experience that, or they're used to being around women like you. And so then you can let your guard down, and then you make relationships. You could still be going to grad school and you'd be young for grad school, but you could be making these lifelong friendships at that point, other very motivated, very strong people who are going to change the world as well. But then you're friends with them and you're able to party with them and you're able to still do your work and move forward. And that's something that we talked to. Aisha wants to go to Howard, and we currently have a student, one of your former peers, Peter, who's going to Howard, and he connected you with an amazing woman to talk to in one of these mentorship interviews. So you already have connections to Howard, which is in Washington, D.C., which I think is a good place. Well, obviously, is a good place for a political future, and politics are going to touch whatever you go to in life. I know you don't know where you want what you want to do in life, but a place like Howard would be an amazing place for you to go for academics, but also just for joy and Black joy and like being able to embrace yourself. And so I think there's a huge opportunity that with your grad school experience, and I also think then you'll be ready for it, right? You're not ready for this right now because you have to adjust to this, and you're just finding like joy in people in that capacity, and you're figuring out all these things. So that's part of your path. And there again, there's not a rush for you to change the world at this second. You can be doing it, but you still are, but you can be doing it while you're at these different programs. And I know you have family somewhere else, but an experience where you are away from your family, independent, and but not on your own because you're supported, could be an amazing experience, and I think life changing for you. And I think you're in a situation with all you've done already in life where grad schools will be fighting over you. And so what does that look like? You start talking to people, and it could be in this experience, and I've talked to Aisha about that too, is you could be talking to people, I'm sure, from Howard, for example, and what they would offer you. Tell them about your experience, and they can tell you what they do about this and this and this. Try to be working on scholarships and grant money, and how can you get this paid for so you don't have that burden, so you can have that freedom. Because that's another thing that is something that we're really trying to solve with Mamabird is financial freedom is everything, and everything is stressed out if you don't have money. We just had a mirror broken in our house yesterday, and it was a $150 mirror from IKEA. My wife, who typically is really upset by that, just told me, like, luckily we have money in this. And so she's becoming aware of a lot of these things. Luckily we have money in this situation because I'm not stressed out about this. And those things that people without privilege have to deal with, people with privilege don't. And from a college experience, not having to pay for it could be a really big advantage that you can have, I think, because I think that there will be colleges that will pay for you to be there, basically, and they should. And that's not based on your grades anymore. I always push you to talk about how you're a valedictorian from a marketing standpoint, because I think that's important. And I think what you internalize, though, that you have to be perfect and you don't want to talk about it because you stressed out so much to get to this point, I don't think that's the same fear you should have now. If you get a B in college, your grades are certainly not all you are. And I don't think you did a lot of extracurricular things in high school, and you did a couple different groups. And the human rights group I know was really big, but that doesn't pull the same to colleges, where the work you're now doing with Mamabird, the work you're doing with the student government, like all of those things are so much more important than grades, and the colleges especially that you want to be at. You want to be at somewhere where they want you, right? You want people kind of chasing after you. And I think especially if you literally, you're kind of interviewing at this point 2 years out, if you start talking to people and making connections at Howard and NYU and wherever else you'd want to think about, and then they're like knocking on your door like, hey, are you still coming here? We want you to come here. This is what we can offer you in this package. And then when you go to these places, you're in a leveraged position too. And then that makes everything easier. There's some weight that comes with that, but you can also communicate to them, this is where I am in life. I really want to experience life at this point, which will make me better for all these things. And then you will have these, you'll have gone through this experience too, and have these different, you'll know how to say no. You'll know where your boundaries are. You'll have more of a vision of where you want to go. You'll potentially know people before you even go there. With this Zoom world, you can now connect with people in different organizations that are on the campuses and learn from them. And so I think that you can really be setting yourself up and looking forward to a graduate experience, which you want to do, and that will be way more supported. And then that's really kind of where you have your more traditional college experience. What are your thoughts when I say all that?
It brings me energy to just think about it. I have thought about going to HBCU for graduate school, and I know it will be like a major culture change, which is totally fine. And I think that's something I need. You can only grow so much from where you are. I've grown so much here at home in Montbello for the past 7 years, but I think being somewhere else, I could find a whole different aspect of myself that I've been missing out on. So that's something I'm also very excited on, looking forward to. And I hope that it does work out, or I go somewhere else. Because like you said, going to college, moving out, all of that really helped too. And I want, to experience the same thing. I've had like a very strict background, and I used to think my future the same. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to college, and after I go to college, I'm gonna get a job, and then after I get a job, maybe I'll get married, maybe I'll have kids, and then boom, my life is over. But that's not how I see it anymore. Yeah, I can't wait for graduate school, and meeting new people and being in these new spaces and learning from new people. Yeah, that's what I have to say about it all.
And they're also like-minded people, right? Like-minded people who've gotten to that position, and then that will be neat too from a networking standpoint. You'll be connecting to people, some who do have privilege. And there's a lot of people still at HBCUs that have a lot of privilege, and so, and one of is our vice president right now, and so she, experienced these different things, and you can still be again going and being friends with people who are around these networks, and so there's an advantage in that capacity too. And one thing I realized when I grew up in San Diego, and I lived there from before. I was born in Denver, then grew up in San Diego, and then we moved back here when I was 30. And I always thought I would stay in San Diego. And then once we moved to Denver, I realized, which we love it here, and we probably will stay here, but we don't need to stay here forever. And you can always move back. And so that's something where just because you go somewhere doesn't mean your life's not going to be connected. Just because you go somewhere, it doesn't mean that you're not involved in your family. Your family, and especially you with our work that we're doing with Mamabird, you're able to, as we get bigger and do more of these interviews and paid interviews, you'll be able to provide money, which is more important probably to your family than anything else in our society currently. But not only providing that, one of the ways that I always think about things now, and it really helps me, and this could help you with saying no too, is look at yourself as how you'd recommend, what advice would you give to your little sisters if they were in this situation? And you would tell them, go to school, right, far away, and go experience this for yourself, and become your own person. And you're a family person. You're always going to be connected to your family. You'll always be supportive of them at the best way that you can be. And you would absolutely encourage that. You would also encourage them to say no to stuff. If you're overwhelmed by things, or if this isn't, there's a thing called leverage. And leverage is when you have a giant boulder, right? You can't move that boulder by yourself. But if you have a small boulder and a stick, you can use the leverage of these tools to then move that big boulder. And so you've got a finite amount of time. How can you leverage that time to do the best in the world? And it doesn't need to be the best, but so you've got to analyze things from that perspective. Is what impact does this actually have? What impact am I having? Am I needed for this kind of project? And that's my path that I think you are needed for, is again, whatever it is in the world that you end up doing, and making a change. And I'm confident that you and also your peers will, when you have these privileges now that are bestowed upon you because of all the hard work that you've done, but you have this opportunity, that you'll take advantage of it and you'll do good for the world. And so then how can you help other people do those same things? And right now, the way that you can do that is honoring yourself, making sure that you are here, right? If you break down mentally and emotionally and are unable to maintain, then that's not good for anybody. Another thing that I've been running into with a lot of people is self-sabotage. And I just listened to a podcast this morning with another woman that I was trying to connect you with that is named Lovey Jai, I think is her name. And she is a author and social media figure, and she's amazing. And she says that, and she was talking to another woman, they were talking about self-sabotage and just how they'll find that in their way, and imposter syndrome and all these other things that I've never had experience as a white man, because I believe I belong in every room ever, because I have seen people that look like me, they're in those rooms, but also just have had this sense of confidence. It's an American thing too. My wife says Americans think they're so damn great. And we're great in a lot of ways. We have so far to go in so many. And so you being confident, you being taking care of yourself, then leads you to be more successful in these environments, and helps in the future. And so looking at it that way, long term, I think is a big deal. So saying that, and I know I've pressed you this, or I know you don't know exactly, but where are you? What do you think? Like, have you thought about what you would study in grad school, or where you want to go in the future? What kind of things you want to do? And you don't need to also be set on one career path. What are your kind of thoughts on where you are with your career, what you're learning? Go into quickly to what you're majoring in right now and minoring in your certificate.
I am majoring in anthropology with a minor in human development and family relations and a certificate in immigration studies. I'm thinking about adding a certificate in political science. I was looking at CU Denver's political science certificate, and everything sounded exciting, the courses they're offered and different experiences they have. for that certificate. And also being part of student government, I've learned that I kind of do like politics, and I kind of find it interesting to learn about state legislation. And this semester, our goal with student government, I'm part of legislation outreach. We're trying to get more involved in local politics. So that's something I'm currently working on, is trying to get more students from our campus to be involved in local politics, because local politics is as important as presidential elections and all the bigger stuff. So I want something that's a bit flexible. That this is something I've been thinking about. It's like, okay, what am I going to do with all these degrees and certificates? And well, my main goal is of course to help people, but I had to like narrow that down. Like, who specifically do I want to help? Because a lot of people need help in different ways. From food insecurity, from the environment, from medicine, all of that different things. It's like many different ways you could help people. So I'm trying to find what way do I want to help people, and what people do I want to help. And currently it's leaning more towards immigrants and young people. Um, I wanted to be a teacher when I was younger. I love kids. I love teaching kids. I used to teach my little sisters Arabic, and I would take time to like make lesson plans and all this stuff for them. And so I want um, there was this opportunity that was given. There was an email. This lady, she's starting a learning center, and she wants volunteers to help tutor immigrant children. And that sounded like something I kind of want to do with my career path, is helping kids, specifically immigrant kids, readapt to America and not finding their place, but making their own place here in America. I don't know what that looked like. Well, what that will look like, but yeah, that's where I'm leaning towards. It's more of the culture aspect and learning about different types of immigrants and helping young children. And maybe that might involve being in politics, because, politics has a big role in immigration and how immigrants live in this country. So that's something I'm leaning towards. I'm still looking at different types of degrees that different schools offers, um, but I don't have like a specific degree in mind.
Yeah, and I think this is a great tool to figure out those things too, and reaching out to people. And one person we've got a interview with you actually scheduled at some point in March. Is we've been reaching out for a while, and they both talked to us for our grad school. Is Candy C. DeBaca, who is a local progressive woman of color and young too. That's a city councilwoman, and then her chief of staff is Dr. Lisa Calderon, who is one of my peers from my doctoral program, and that's where I connected with her. And she ran for mayor, and she is amazing. And so she's her chief of staff. And I'm going to have you talk to Dr. Calderon and get advice from her. And she said she would kind of do a mentor session with you. And then Lizette is going to talk to Councilwoman Sidabaka, who also is kind of similar. And you should connect with Lizette too, because she's got very similar views on the world and is also incredibly intelligent and at NYU. And so she's also put herself in a position where she's going to have power in the society in that way. And so that's something where you two should talk and have a conversation too, because that would be really powerful for both of you and to network and connect. She could also tell you about NYU and that experience there as a woman of color, what that's like during a pandemic now, but just in general too. And so with that though, Dr. Calderon has a lot of different strengths that she can talk to you about, which I think would be really powerful for you to learn. You don't necessarily need to be the politician, although she did that. And kind of her thing on it is kind of, I feel like how you are in a lot of ways, like reticent to put yourself out there, but like once it comes to you, then you just fully embrace it. And you're past it so quick, which I respect you so much in so many ways, Yusura. The way that you handled when we kind of forced you into or asked you to do your valedictorian speech again, and I've listened to that thing a million times, and I just love it, and the power that you come through, and kind of the power that you show when you delivered it, and that's something that not everyone is capable of, and also I disagree with that. I guess everyone is capable of it, but not everyone can get there that quick. And she talked about that when she was running for mayor. It was kind of, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this, but no one's doing this. So I need to do this. And once she decided I need to do this, then she was full in, and she was like, I'm not worried about being mayor. Like, I know I can do that job, which is like amazing, right? that she thinks that way. And she's right. She could certainly do that job. But I think you're like that too, is your path is going to wind, you're going to find the best place. And the best place may be supporting someone who does have these different capabilities and helping push legislation from a different perspective, however that can be, and managing a team and working with other people. It could be running a center where it helps young immigrant children. There's so many different options. And I want to push you though to think about, we get one life to live, and what does your best life look like? And for my best life, one of the ways that I see it is it's very different. I'm teaching. I still want to continue teaching, but what I love doing is starting things that can impact people, empower them, and have them run it. And we're doing that with Mamabird interviews right now. We've started something that's amazing. We found someone who really has the capabilities and the capacity to run things currently in Carla. And so she's now doing all the work behind the scenes that I used to be doing, and I'm still working with her. But then we brought on Lorena, who's amazing. That's our lead intern. And so that could be something too, where you're not fixed on one specific thing. So you love teaching. Can you impact teachers in some way, in some capacity? And even if you want to, you could be doing that work for a while, and don't ever feel like directly impacting people is really beneficial for them too. And so that could be something, but you don't have to stay in one box your whole career. And I really want to encourage you to think about, what does your best life look like? Your best life looks like, I'm doing this and this and this and this for myself. I'm taking time to travel and see the world, because traveling and seeing the world is really impactful for the world. Me and my wife are going to, in a year and a half, we're going to live in Poland. And so we are going to take time out of our world so that our kids can really be established in the culture. They can learn the language. I would love to live in Poland. That's an experience for me. I don't know what that's going to do to me professionally. I still want to continue to teach. Hopefully I can teach at the school where I'm at now, because I love the school where I'm at now. But if that's not the path, I'm never going to regret living in Poland. And that's one thing I want you to encourage you to live by too, is absolutely no regrets. Like, if you're on the fence about doing something or not because of whatever reasons, like, if you know it's going to haunt you, and you typically know, I know, and travel is one of those things. I'm never going to regret traveling. We took a year off when I was 30 to travel around Europe and then around America, just me and my wife, and it was unbelievable. And not only was it unbelievable, I'm so much better at everything I do based on that journey. And so that's something too. It's interesting because I was very unaware of my privilege at that time, and so I wondered if I could have stepped away from a position where I felt I'm impacting the world and done that in the same way that I am now. But I guess I am going to do that. But you can still be touching and interacting with people and changing things while you're doing stuff that's for yourself. And so that's something that I've learned from a lot of people too, is the whole system needs to be changed. There's complete systems that need to be changed, but we still obviously need to work within the systems that we have. And then the people that are going to change it are going to be the people like you, right, that are working for the right reasons within those systems. And so there's so many capacities to impact the world in different ways, while still living your best life, while still having joy, while not working 90-hour weeks, while doing it in a smarter, not harder way. And so much of that becomes, and we talked about that, so many capable people from our community. You're going to meet so many, you've met already in your college experience, so many capable people. You are going to meet and continue to meet as you go through grad school, so many more amazing people. There's like unlimited amounts of these amazing people in just in this country, let alone the world. And so working with them, that's something that's hard probably for you to do too, because I bet you in group projects, you were stressed out about who's doing what, and it needs to be to your level. And so that's so hard too. And so are you really doing everyone a favor in that situation? Or if you could go back and do those and help support other people, even if you got a B, but they're actually doing work and you're helping them learn about something, then that would have been the better option. That's something I deal with too, is you want it to be good, especially with our business, you want it to be forward facing, to be really good, but really the answer is empowering the people who are then going to make it better later, because they're going to learn, and certainly surpass you. And so all those things, I just want you to encourage you to really know that you can live your best life, live a life without regrets. It's your life. So that's something that's hard too for you, I'm sure, is because you're so family oriented and all this stuff that and not only family oriented, forced to be family oriented in the fact that your family's had such a tough struggle to get to this point, for you to have these opportunities. So you're indebted to them in so many ways. But know that you living your best life will be best for your family as well. And even if it's not instant, even if there's some hassles that come with it and issues that come with it, as long as you're being a good person, which you talked about, that doesn't mean one thing, but there's no doubt to me that you're going to be a good person in life. And so that's going to be something where your family's going to be proud of the stuff that you do, and you're going to impact your family with the stuff that you do. And we're starting to connect to people like that. I don't know if you watched it yet, but one of the interviews that has been done outside of you, that was a mentor interview, was with Amayas and Arya Saeed. And Arya runs and founded, legislated the first ever on the earth transgender district, which is in San Francisco, and and also worked on IDs and licenses, that there's a box for non-binary. And so Amayas was telling Arya that the work that Arya has done has literally impacted Amayas's life. And I'm like, this is cool. And they both kind of talked about too, that's where things change, is the legislation, and it doesn't change overnight, and it's going to take a long time, but that impacts it. All right, I'm going on tangents here, so let's wrap it up here. What should be our next steps? What do you think in your capacity for this work is? How do you see this going as far as the amount of interviews you do? What would be work good for your schedule and your life right now?
My schedule and my life is constantly changing, and I think I could my schedule this semester, I'm thankful, is really flexible, and I'm able to do my classwork whenever my deadlines. I have strict deadlines, but I'm able to always meet them. My classes, they're not hard, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of readings, but they're not like heavy things to decompose and go through. So that's something I'm thankful for. So for the interviews, I was thinking of making a list for it first, and then reaching out to people and see when they. Well, not what I'll let Aisha know and see when they're available, and then from there start planning and organizing everything, and then maybe using those interviews kind of branch out to who I'll meet with next. For example, let's say I meet with Miss Reed, and then we have a discussion, and then something else pops up, another topic that I notice that I need to fix on, and maybe she can give me another person I could talk to, or I could find someone to branch off of her conversation with her, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's what I'm currently thinking of. And of course, I still need to reach out to Yaba and Yvette, to make sure I reschedule those meetings, and hopefully this time we actually follow through with them. Yeah.
Yeah, and Yaba's amazing, and is an author, and Yvette is also amazing and an author. And I signed up for Bitch magazine, which she's the editor for, and it's amazing. Like it's the real deal. And so both of them will be wonderful. And again, like, you can have a conversation. This is a wonderful conversation with anybody, and I think this is one thing that we can model too in this new Zoom world. And then we can do this later for other people in some capacities, kind of these mentor interviews in this capacity, where, and you'll be doing it, and Aisha will be doing it, and really everyone who, everyone I feel should be doing it. It's hard to match up people, but there's enough people in this world, and there's also enough people that want to help in this world, I think, and have conversations like this. And then that's something that theoretically, grant money, I would love. Like, could we be paying you for this work? And if we made enough money with our interviews, then theoretically we could be paying you for this work. But how much that would change things too, because hopefully we're going to be also be having more of these wisdom interviews for you to be, these paid interviews for you to be doing too. And then something I just thought of recently that was an idea my dad had actually is, could you then be interviewing Reed, and then we ask people to throw in $5 for you for this time, right, too, and kind of crowdsource, because a lot of people want to support in that capacity too. And then you're kind of modeling something that can be done by people, right? That we could have people, especially specifically from marginalized communities, who are reaching out to people who have made it out of those communities, and not out of those communities, because that's not a good phrase, but have achieved success in our society as it's set up right now in these communities, and learn from them. But there's also a lot of people like me. This is still a good conversation you're having with an ally who wants to support you, and that opens up people's networks too. And so I know a lot of those people, and I think that could be really beneficial for a lot of people. And just having the other thing that I never thought about this in that capacity is, when we do our wisdom interviews, I thought about the young and old. Certainly that there's wisdom that's passed from old to young, but I forget about the wisdom passed from young to old. And what Miss Hoffman, who we worked with this summer, who is also a peer at my school that I work at, and is also doing amazing work with from allies to abolitionists, and helping with homeless rights and all these other things in Denver. She talked about just the intersectionality of these conversations is really important too. If I hadn't worked in Montbello, I'd never be connected to you, and I would never be having a conversation with young Muslim woman who've dealt with all this stuff and know your story. And I think there's huge potential for that too. That there's the intersectionality of race, age, gender, all of the things can be really powerful too, and can help move the world forward as well. And so I think that's a really cool part of what's happening with us right now here too. And so there's just nothing but good from this. Okay, and so my vision too for you again is I think that helping support you and really pushing towards your grad school is really important. That's an important part of this. And those kind of the dedication to that work now can really pay off in the future. And not just for you. If you are courted and people are like fighting over you for these different schools, and they then learn about our programs and all our people, and then they want all of our people go there, because Proctor's in the same boat as you for that too. Is she is at CU Boulder currently. Same thing, stellar student. She's double majoring with a minor. She's doing wonderful things and making great connections there. She's doing leadership programs and other things outside of Mamabird as well. And she is really talking about going to grad school as well. And she chose CU Boulder, which is CU Boulder is a much more traditional college experience than even CU Denver, where you're at, because most people live on campus. It's very privileged and very white. So she's dealing with that, but she's dealing with it really well, and it's working out for her and her personality and her background too. And she's able to be exposed to a little more of the fun side, I think, of college and navigating that. But she also got into Howard and she got into NYU, but she never applied for scholarship money or grant money because she didn't think she'd be able to get in there. Which that kind of mindset, I say, drives me crazy, but it's not your fault at all. Like the fact that you all don't see what I see in you is frustrating to me, because I just wish I could just flip a switch and so you could see your strength and how I think of all of you as so much better than me and so much more capable in so many ways. But we're doing that with Mamabird, and you're doing it for each other. Like that's a neat thing too. One of the coolest things to me is, and my love language is affirmation. So I do want to hear nice things, but when you all meet without me, there's no mention of me because you're just moving on to the work, and that's amazing. That's awesome. And so with that, with Proctor, what I was saying is she could get into these places and apply to these places, but her path going to CU Boulder is absolutely the best thing for her. And she can always achieve things differently in grad school. And I think for you, your path going to CU Denver and this experience, as you've grown and it's been slower, so you've been able to grow in that capacity, and the work we've done with Mamabird because of that, which that's something I have to try to balance, because you did try to say no to me with this work. And so the one time that I heard you say no, I didn't let it happen, which I'm glad about. But I still don't know how to, I don't know how to justify that in my head, but I'm glad we did it. And so, but her going to now doing grad school at Howard or NYU or an HBCU or wherever could be a completely transformational experience for her too. And she still has the basis and the connections and the experience with Boulder. And now she has this, you'll still have the connections, the experience, which we still need to, like, with you with CU Denver, we've really had a good good outreach with connecting her with people that have helped move Mamabird forward and connections that, and we haven't made those same connections at CU Denver. Part of the reason I think we've been successful at Boulder is they are so white and so not diverse that they are very aware of that, and they are really trying to make sure that they highlight voices of a young Black woman who's at the school, show her as a success story and all these things so they can get more diversity there. CU Denver is much, much, much more diverse. And I think that you're benefiting from that in your connections. I'm sure the student government is very diverse, but there's still powerful people at CU Denver that we could be connecting to through you and to help you with your grad school experience, for example, like the counseling center there. I don't know if you're connected with them and talking to them. Do you know anybody at HBCUs? Who should I be talking to about this? And they can make those connections for you. And then you can connect throughout those schools. So that's where I think really for me, my main vision is I think you're going to be fine on a lot of the different fronts. I think you know that emotional health is really important to you. So we can find people that can connect you with that. I think you can be inspiring for that one. The podcast I listened to this morning with Lavi Ajay was about normalizing mental health and professional therapy, and how specifically with in Black communities, how that's often seen as a bad thing. And so that could be something too that you could even bring to the Muslim young community too, that people know that this is okay and they see you modeling these behaviors and they see how it's helped you. So I think you're good on all those fronts, and I can help chime in other things, but what I think you really may not do for yourself that I think you need to is the college part of it, because I think grad school will be just an unbelievable experience for you. And Yusura, you're 18 years old now. That still is wild to me that you're that young, but like when you're 30, I just can't imagine what you're going to be like. It's going to be amazing. And so with all these experiences under your belt, and now you've had fun and you've had these connections and you're living your best life, you don't know what's going to, be open to whatever comes at you, but also know that you can change, and it's going to be a journey, but you've got to put yourself in a place where you can enjoy it.
Yes, I agree. Hopefully I'll get there. Might be slow, but I'll get there.
Yeah, not hopefully, you're gonna get there, and
Hmm.
have that faith in that you will, and that you deserve it, and that you deserve it for not only yourself, but again, even doing good for yourself is good for your family, and doing good for yourself is good for your siblings, and doing good for yourself is good for Black women, and doing good for yourself is good for Muslim women. Like all this stuff, they don't need you to do good for this, right? You're not the savior. You're not going to be the only one who's doing this work. You're not that, and so take that part out of it. You're not representing all women, and I know you've talked about that, and you should not look at life that way, but you should you should look at life as you deserve this, and you are worth this, and you are a wonderful person, and guess what, so is everybody else. And so let's work together in the best way you can, that you're also taking care of yourself to make the world better for everybody else. And I think you're right with kind of having to zero in on one specific group in that capacity, but that doesn't mean you need to stay that way forever, right? I wanted to get Mamabird interviews going, and I would love to get that going so that we can then branch out into many different other fields and impact people in other ways. And my focus specifically of young women from marginalized communities now will, I think, lead out to young men from marginalized communities, and then that have an impact on that community would make the world a better place for everyone. And that's kind of my task. And you'll find your task, and you'll see as you're old. I had no idea what the hell I was doing with my life when I was 18. Like, you're so far advanced than I was, and I think that with privilege, it wasn't an issue with me. I didn't have to, and there's a lot of freedom that comes with that. And so there's a lot of responsibility that you have to deal with, but you certainly have the shoulders to deal with it. And at the same time, you need to be valuing yourself, and I think you're at a good place for that too. And even reflecting on how far you've come and the struggles you've had to have even just this year to get to this point. And guess what? They're going to come back, right? You know that you're not done with this, and you know that there's so much growth to be had. And so how can we use the systems, the therapy we have in place for you? Can you be using that? The therapy you have in place for you at school, can you be using that? And all of these different things. So then at the point where you don't necessarily need to have it be as much in the future, you'll get to that point. But use every resource that you have in a capacity that works for you. Also, when people reach out for support, take them up on that. It's not a bad thing to take them up on support, which I think you're getting into that too, where you're okay saying those things. And then also, yeah, if you need to say no, do say no to people, and value yourself so that you can then move forward in that capacity in your best way.
Yeah. Um, like you said, I am capable of doing it. That's something, affirmations, something I've learned about. It's doing them every morning, and I'm trying to do them every morning. Instead of the negative self-talk, it's like, no, you are confident. You are a soul, so you can do this. And it's helped a lot, and trying to step out bit by bit out of my comfort zone, because being being uncomfortable is okay. Um, and I've noticed that being happy makes me uncomfortable sometimes. I'm just like, I'm not used to this. But I'm learning, like, it's okay if you're only happy for now. Enjoy it, and then when you're not happy again, you'll remember this moment, and then you'll come back. But I'm trying to break out my thought patterns from before, because I think this is like the farthest I've ever came with, because I've been dealing with a lot my whole life, and I've always tried to like push on through it, but I end up back where I started. But now I feel like I'm actually past that cycle, and now I'm trying to stay out of the cycle, and I think I'm doing pretty okay so far.
I think you are too. And the concept that you're upset at yourself or doesn't feel good to be happy is so shocking to me, because that's never even been something that I've ever even fathomed. And I don't have an answer for that, but you absolutely should be happy. And we all go through ups and downs during the day, but if you're feeling these things, that's something that and you're now aware of, that you need to work on. And that's something where you work on with a therapist. There's a professional. They've dealt with a million different people who are exactly like you. They know what you need to do in those situations to make it better. They've seen it work and do better. You could connect to people who are further down in their journey that have those same feelings. That would be wonderful for you. But that just breaks my heart in the way that like you feel you don't deserve to be happy, or that you have those thoughts that ever come in, because that's something that I wish, again, I could just snap and make go away, but it doesn't work like that. But use those tools, like you talked about, affirmations, gratitude, journals, all these other things that we hear consistently from successful people. They're all using these things, and they're all still struggling with this too. And happiness comes in different forms, and little things that I don't really have many mentors myself, and that's something I want to do too, is talk to people and get mentored and learn from people. But one of he's a mentor of mine. He was a former student of mine at the community college level, Glenn. And Glenn talks about asking yourself questions. And so if you ask yourself, how am I going to screw this up? Why am I this way? Why am I so annoying? All these things, your brain answers that for you. And so then that just reaffirms these issues. And so if you ask yourself questions like, what can I do today to get towards my goal? Or who can I help today? Or how can I practice self-care today? Then your brain starts answering those questions. And so framing it in that way and start asking yourself questions. These are questions you could write down and just ask yourself in the morning that really do put you in a good place. Other things that I'm working on personally is trying to do, and I'm doing this with my students currently, as well as kind of meditations. And we started just based on what I've learned just from watching videos of Kobe Bryant. I think there's a lot of wisdom that comes with death. And so watching these things after these people are gone is powerful. And so one of the things was, he talked about meditating, and he did it every morning. And it was just sitting in kind of silence and letting all his thoughts come in, and seeing what was there. And that's as basic as you can do it. You can listen to a song that you love that puts you in a good mood, and I'll do that. I had some things I was dealing with the other day, and I put this song, "Get What You Give" by the New Radicals, which is a 8 and 90s song that's just poppy and fun, and it brings me joy. And so, can you have a song that you go to and put yourself in your happy place? And a lot of it could be just placebo, like it just is good for you, and that's important too. So having these mechanisms to put you in a good place. Even my dad used to talk when I played sports. He's like, smile, because smiling, even if you're faking it, puts in your brain, and it literally, clicks stuff in your brain, and different synapses are firing. And so that puts you in a better mood, even if you're just faking it. And I will even be doing things like that. If I'm not like happy, my life is so good, and I am so privileged that if I'm not happy at every second, I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, you got one life to live. When I look at the end of my life, the days I want to go back to are these days. And it really is going to be true of every day. But these days are the days I'm going to want to go back to. Like, enjoy these moments, and really take them in, and be present with my family, and be impactful with you all, and do good in this world. And so that's something where I think you're getting that, and that's wonderful. And then also, though, I used to love to watch The West Wing, and The West Wing is about a president in America, and really about his staff and government. And one of the stories that was told in that, this was about alcoholism, but it was about how if you've been low, then you know how to get out of there. So if you've been low and you're now high, you know how to get out of there. And so someone else who's been low too, you can help others. And so even the fact that you've had to deal with these thoughts may not be a bad thing, right? Because you're able to then help, not that you wish that on people, but now you're able to help people in your journey too, which you could do with this project. And so that's another opportunity for you that you can be proud of, and something that can come positive out of things. And so that kind of mindset of putting a positive spin on things that happen can also be a really good way to be happier in general too. All right, I want to give you your time back, and I'm going to go be with my family. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. I think you are on the start of something truly special. I think you are truly special. And I, again, don't just think it's you. I think there's so many more other amazing people like you that and that you can impact in a really positive way. And I'm really excited for you, and really want to invest my time and money into you getting where you're going to go in life. Again, there's no pressure from me, no accountability you need to have to me for whatever. You don't owe me a damn thing. I believe in you. And so there's nothing that I'm doing for you in any way that will ever be like, I feel like you owe me something for it, or like that you need to feel that in any capacity. So I want to put that on record, make sure you know that too, or anybody else. My thinking again is that you're a wonderful human being, and you'll do really good in this world. And so giving you the opportunities and helping you have as many opportunities as possible so you can choose your own path. That's my vision with all this, and my charge. And so I really appreciate time like this. I enjoy all these interactions with you. And this is something I would like to do more often. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in this capacity or frame in this capacity. It's just kind of having more check-ins with you occasionally, in whatever capacity that would be, so that you can have, you know, guidance in different ways outside of your bubble and outside of your circle, because I'm obviously from a very different environment than you and see the world differently than you, probably in a lot of ways. And it's a selfish reason too, is me being more connected to all of you, means I learn more from you too, because I do always learn from you, and I'm always trying to get better as a person too. So I want to do more of this.
Yeah, I totally agree. We should do more of this. It makes me more comfortable talking to people because, you know, I'm so used to talking to my family like every single day. So it's nice to talk to other people. And I'm trying to do that more in classes to participate more and in my student government meetings. I participate in my mini meetings, but not my, you know, big meetings with like 40 people and we have like guests come in and it's like a lot. But yeah, thank you for meeting with me. This conversation opened up my mind. It's a nice way to start off the day. So thank you. I appreciate you and the work you're doing and for starting this in the first place and helping us become the people we are today.
Are you watching the Super Bowl today, Yusura?
I'm not. I did
Do you
not
know
know
the
he
Super
was even
Bowl's
going.
today?
No.
Do you know what
I
the Super
probably should
Bowl
tell my
is?
dad. My dad's excited about that. So remind him.
Do you know what the Super Bowl is?
Super Bowl football. That's all I know.
The championship game in football. Yeah. Really not important in the world, right? And so that's something too where such minor things take up so much of our attention in different ways. But it's something where my family, I get to communicate with my dad and my brother, and we text about football all the time. So sports are good for that reason. But again, men running the world versus women running the world. I want you to run the world. So there's not the Super Bowl we're celebrating. It's, you know, something else. Amanda Gorman's speech, which she's speaking, I think, during the Super Bowl. So we'll bring her in. All right. You have a wonderful day, Yusura. Good to see you
You
again.
too.
Thank you for your time, and we will talk later.
Goodbye.
All right. Bye.